3 weeks before my wedding, I discovered my fiancé and my younger sister had been secretly meeting in hotel rooms for months. I should have canceled everything. I should have confronted them. Instead, I hired a private investigator, called a lawyer, and stayed silent. Then, on my wedding day, in front of 220 guests, my sister grabbed the microphone and announced she was pregnant with my fiancé's baby. The room went silent. What neither of them knew was that I had already spent weeks collecting evidence, preparing for that exact moment, and making sure they would never walk away with my future. My name is Evelyn Hartwell, and this is the story of how the two people I trusted most destroyed their own lives, trying to destroy mine. Chapter 1: The Daughter Woo. Neverneed Savangi was 34 years old, the vice president of marketing strategy at Viridian Retail Group in Chicago, and 3 months away from marrying the man I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. From the outside, my life looked almost painfully perfect. I had a career I loved, a downtown condo with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, a golden retriever named Cooper who greeted me every evening like I had just returned from war, and Ethan Mercer, a successful business development director who somehow managed to be charming without trying too hard. People loved telling me how lucky I was. What they never saw was the little girl underneath all of it. The girl who learned very early that being responsible did not mean being important. My younger sister Madison had always been the center of gravity in our family. Everything revolved around her. When she was happy, everyone relaxed. When she was upset, the entire house went into crisis mode. I was the opposite. I was the easy child, the independent child, the child who never needed saving. At least that was the story everyone told themselves. One of my earliest memories still sits in my mind like a splinter. In 2008, when I was 17, I spent almost an entire year saving money for a bicycle. I worked weekends, babysat for neighbors, and skipped every unnecessary purchase. The day I finally bought it felt like winning the lottery. 3 days later, Madison crashed it into a mailbox while trying to impress her friends. The front wheel was destroyed. I remember standing in the driveway staring at the twisted metal. Madison was crying. My mother wrapped her arms around her. My father told me accidents happened. Then they both looked at me. Not her, me? You are the older sister. Be understanding. Be mature, forgive her. Nobody asked how I felt. Nobody offered to replace the bike. That was the first time I understood that being hurt and being seen were not the same thing. 4 years later came the moment that hurt even more. In 2012, I received a full scholarship to the University of Michigan. For months, I had worked toward that goal. I still remember opening the acceptance letter and crying on my bedroom floor. The scholarship ceremony was one of the biggest days of my life. My parents promised they would be there. They never showed up. The night before the ceremony, Madison's boyfriend dumped her. The next morning, my mother called. Her voice sounded apologetic but distracted. Madison is having a really hard time right now. Your father and I think we should stay home with her. You understand, right? Of course I understood. I always understood. I sat through the ceremony alone, while other students took pictures with proud parents. I stood beside a professor who offered to take a photo for me. That picture stayed on my desk for years, not because I was proud of the scholarship, because it reminded me of the day I realized something painful. I only received attention when I needed nothing. By the time I graduated, I had become very good at needing nothing. I built a career, worked long hours, earned promotions, made myself useful, successful, reliable, strong. Meanwhile, Madison drifted from one crisis to another. New jobs, new relationships, new plans, new disasters. In 2019, she accumulated more than $20,000 in credit card debt. My parents paid it off. That same year, I bought my first condo entirely on my own. My father looked around the place during the housewarming party. Nice place. Then he spent the rest of the evening discussing Madison's latest breakup. Not once did anyone congratulate me. By then, I wasn't surprised. I had stopped expecting it. The strange thing about disappointment is that eventually it starts feeling normal. Then Ethan entered my life. I met him at a nationals marketing conference in Chicago in the spring of 2021. I was speaking on a panel about consumer behavior. Afterward, a man approached me near the coffee station, tall, confident, easy smile. He introduced himself as Ethan Mercer. He asked thoughtful questions about my presentation. Not the kind people ask to sound smart, the kind that showed he had actually listened. We ended up talking for nearly an hour. Then another hour at dinner that evening, then coffee the next morning. For the first time in years, I felt completely seen. Not admired, not needed. Seen, there is a difference. We started dating a few weeks later. The relationship grew naturally. No games, no drama, no grand declarations. Just two ambitious people building something together. At least that was what I believed. By 2024, we had created a life that felt solid. We shared routines, weekend trips, holiday traditions, late-night conversations. And of course Cooper, who adored Ethan almost as much as I did. That August, Ethan proposed at Lake Geneva. The sunset reflected across the water. He got down on one knee. I said yes before he even finished asking. It felt like the beginning of everything. My parents were thrilled. Friends celebrated. Even Madison seemed genuinely happy. That was probably the first thing that should have worried me. For years, Madison had treated my accomplishments like background noise. Now suddenly, she was deeply invested in every detail of my wedding. She volunteered to help choose flowers, review menus, visit venues, coordinate vendors, manage schedules. At first, I found it touching. Maybe she really had changed. Maybe adulthood had finally softened the competition that always existed between us. I wanted to believe that. So I did. One evening a few months later, our family gathered for dinner at my parents' house. Nothing unusual, just food, conversation, and wedding planning. At one point, my father asked Ethan about his favorite hiking trail. Before Ethan could answer, Madison spoke. She immediately named a small trail outside Madison, Wisconsin. Not only did she know it, she knew why he loved it. She even mentioned a story about him getting caught in a thunderstorm there years ago. The room laughed. Ethan laughed too. Madison smiled. Everyone moved on except me. I sat there, holding my wine glass, listening, watching, trying to understand, because I had never heard that story, not once, not in 3 years together. Not during road trips, not during vacations, not during hundreds of conversations. It wasn't a huge thing, just a strange thing, the kind of thing that shouldn't matter. And yet it did. I caught Ethan's eye across the table. For a brief second, something passed between him and Madison. A look, a hesitation. Almost instantly, so fast, I wondered if I imagined it. The conversation continued. Nobody noticed, nobody except me. On the drive home, I stared out the passenger window while Chicago lights blurred past. Ethan reached over and squeezed my hand. Everything okay? I forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. Maybe I was tired. Maybe wedding stress was getting to me. Maybe I was overthinking. That explanation certainly sounded more reasonable than the alternative. But later that night, lying awake beside Ethan while Cooper slept at the foot of the bed, I found myself replaying that moment again and again. The story, the look, the feeling. And for the first time since accepting Ethan's proposal, a quiet voice in the back of my mind whispered something I wasn't ready to hear. Something felt wrong. Chapter 2. The red flags I refused to see. At first, I did what I had always done best. I explained the discomfort away. Wedding planning makes everyone emotional. Families get too involved. Sisters overstep. Fiancés forget which stories they have told and which ones they have not. I built an entire courtroom defense for people who had not even been accused yet. That was how deeply trained I was to protect everyone else from the consequences of making me uncomfortable. Over the next few weeks, Madison became unavoidable. She was at every venue meeting, every tasting, every floral consultation, every appointment where I had expected to sit beside Ethan and imagine the life we were building. Instead, Madison sat across from us with her phone in one hand and an iced coffee in the other, offering opinions like she had been hired as the creative director of my wedding. The salmon is too safe, she said during one tasting at the resort near Lake Geneva. Ethan likes food with more personality. I looked at Ethan. He smiled without quite looking at me. I mean, I do like spice. The florist suggested white peonies and eucalyptus. Madison shook her head before I could answer. No, Ethan hates eucalyptus. It gives him a headache. I turned toward him again. He gave a small shrug. Only sometimes, only sometimes. Those two words followed me home that night, because in 3 years together, through holidays and road trips and sick days and lazy Sundays, Ethan had never once told me eucalyptus gave him a headache. Amanda Brooks noticed before I was ready to admit there was anything to notice. Amanda had been my closest friend since freshman year at the University of Michigan. She was blunt in the way only a corporate attorney could be. Precise, observant, impossible to distract once she sensed a problem. We were standing in the bridal salon while Madison argued with the stylist about veil lengths. Amanda leaned close to me and lowered her voice. She is acting like she is the bride. I gave a soft laugh. She is just excited. Amanda looked at me through the mirror. No, Ev. Excited is helping, this is ownership. I pretended to adjust the lace on my sleeve. You are overthinking it, maybe, she said. But I am not the one marrying him. I should have listened. Instead, I kept moving. Work became the one place where everything still made sense. At Viridian Retail Group, numbers behaved. Campaigns had deadlines, clients had expectations, strategy meetings were tense but honest, in a way my personal life no longer felt. One Thursday afternoon, Jennifer Walsh asked me to lunch. Jennifer was our chief marketing officer, polished, sharp, and impossible to impress accidentally. When she chose a quiet corner table instead of our usual crowded cafe, I knew something serious was coming. She waited until our salads arrived before speaking. I want you to know your name is being discussed for regional CMO. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. The Midwest division, she continued. It would be a significant jump. Bigger team. Bigger budget. More visibility. I stared at her. That is earned, she said, cutting me off gently. Not lucky, not premature, earned. I thought I would feel only joy. Instead, a strange nervousness passed through me because success had always cost me something in my family. When I told Ethan that night, he kissed me on the forehead and said he was proud of me, but his smile faded quickly. That is amazing, he said. It just means things are going to get even more intense, right? Probably. And the wedding. The lake house. Everything the lake house. 2 weeks earlier, Ethan and I had started the process of buying a lakefront home outside Lake Geneva. It was beautiful in the way expensive homes are allowed to be beautiful. Stone fireplace, wide deck, private dock. 4 bedrooms we did not need yet but had started imagining anyway. The price was $1.4 million. It was more house than either of us needed, but Ethan loved it. He talked about hosting holidays there, future children. Summer mornings, Cooper running down to the dock. I loved those images because I loved him, but after Jennifer told me about the promotion, Ethan's excitement around the house changed. It became sharper, more urgent. We should move fast, he said one evening, scrolling through the listing photos again. Places like this do not sit long. We have not even finalized the loan structure. We will figure it out. With your promotion, it should be easier. The sentence landed softly, too softly at first. Then I felt the weight of it. With your promotion, Madison knew about the house too. She should not have. I had told my parents we were considering a property, nothing more. I had not mentioned the address, the dock, the price, or the offer deadline. But at brunch that Sunday, Madison lifted her mimosa and smiled. So, when do I get to visit the famous $1 million lake house? My fork stopped halfway to my plate. Ethan cleared his throat. I must have mentioned it. You must have, I said. Madison only smiled and looked down at her phone. Around that same time, small cracks began showing in Madison's life, though she tried hard to cover them with filters and captions. Her influencer brand was built on soft lighting, expensive lattes, and lifestyle advice she never followed. But sponsorships had slowed. Her apartment lease was late. She borrowed my mother's car twice because hers was in the shop, though later I learned it had nearly been repossessed. My parents were tense whenever her name came up. Still, they protected her. They always did. Madison is just going through a rough patch, my mother said when I asked why Dad had transferred money to her again. How much? Evelyn, how much, Mom? She looked away. A few thousand. A few thousand had always meant more than a few thousand in our family. Then came the afternoon. Everything shifted from uncomfortable to impossible to ignore. I came home early with a migraine. The condo was supposed to be empty. Ethan had told me he had back-to-back calls at the office. Madison had posted a story from a boutique downtown 20 minutes earlier. But when I opened the front door, I heard laughter from the kitchen. Madison's laughter, light, familiar, too comfortable. I stepped inside quietly. They were standing near the island. A bottle of red wine was open between them. Madison sat on the counter in her shoes, swinging one leg like she belonged there. Ethan leaned against the sink, his sleeves rolled up. They both turned when they saw me. Too fast. Back to, Ethan said, then corrected himself. Ev, you are home early. Madison slid off the counter. I brought ribbon samples for the place cards, she said quickly. There were no ribbon samples on the counter, only 2 glasses of wine. I looked from her to Ethan. I thought you were at the office. Call got moved, he said. And you came here? Madison laughed too brightly. I was nearby. It is not a federal crime to help with a wedding. No one said it was. The room went quiet. She grabbed her purse. I should go. You look tired, Ev. She kissed my cheek before leaving. Her perfume lingered after the door shut. That night, I waited until Cooper was asleep at the foot of the bed before I asked Ethan the question. Is something going on with you and Madison? He stared at me as if I had slapped him. What? I kept my voice low. I came home and found you drinking wine with my sister in our kitchen. You both looked like I had caught you doing something wrong. He laughed once. Not a cruel laugh. Worse, a disappointed one. Are you serious right now? I did not answer. Evelyn, your wedding is in 3 months. You are under pressure at work. Your family is complicated. I get that. But this is not fair. Not fair. Those words made me feel suddenly small. Madison is trying to help you, he continued. For once she is showing up. And now you are punishing her for it because you cannot relax. I blinked. That is not what I am doing. Then what are you doing? I did not know how to answer. Because when someone says your fear calmly enough, it starts sounding unreasonable even to you. He reached for my hand. I love you. I chose you. Do not let stress turn your sister into the enemy. I wanted to believe him so badly that I did. For almost a week, then Amanda called. I ran into Todd at a work thing, she said. Todd Harrison was Ethan's best friend and one of the groomsmen. Okay. Did you know Madison is helping plan Ethan's bachelor weekend? My stomach tightened. What do you mean helping? Todd said she knew the best places in Milwaukee and was coordinating some private dinner. He assumed you knew. I sat down slowly. I did not know. Amanda went quiet. Ev, I know. No, I do not think you do. That night, after Ethan fell asleep on the couch with his laptop open beside him, I walked past him twice before stopping. The screen had dimmed but not locked. An email notification sat in the corner. The subject line was a hotel confirmation. The Pfister Hotel, Milwaukee, 2 guests. 1 room. For a Friday night, Ethan had told me he would be meeting a client. I stood there in the blue glow of the laptop, my heartbeat suddenly so loud it seemed to fill the room. Cooper lifted his head from his bed and watched me. Ethan slept peacefully, one hand resting near the keyboard. All I had to do was click one small movement, one truth waiting behind a screen. And somehow I knew that if I opened that email, the life I had been trying so hard to protect would never look the same again. Chapter 3. 3 weeks of Sully clicked before I could talk myself out of it. The email opened quietly, almost politely, as if it was not about to tear a hole through my life. The reservation was for the following Friday night at the Pfister Hotel in Milwaukee. 1 deluxe king room. 2 guests. Late checkout requested Ethan Mercer and Madison Hartwell. For several seconds, I did not move. The room around me stayed exactly the same. Cooper breathing softly from his bed. Ethan asleep on the couch. The dishwasher humming in the kitchen. The skyline outside our windows glittering like nothing terrible had happened. But something inside me went very still. I did not scream. I did not wake him. I did not throw the laptop across the room or demand answers from a man who had already taught me how easily he could lie. I took a picture of the screen with my phone, then another. Then I forwarded the confirmation to a private email account I had used only for old tax records and mortgage documents. My hands were steady. That frightened me more than shaking would have. The next morning, Ethan kissed my cheek before leaving for work. "Big client day," he said, adjusting his watch in the hallway. I looked at him. "Milwaukee?" He paused for half a second. "Next Friday, I mentioned that, right?" "You said it was a client dinner." "It is." His smile was easy, too easy. I nodded. "Good luck." He looked relieved that I had not asked more. That was when I understood something important. People do not panic when they believe you are still blind. After he left, I sat at the kitchen island with my coffee growing cold between my hands. Madison texted me at 8:17 that morning. "Can you send me the final guest list again? I want to double-check the seating chart." I stared at her name on my screen, my little sister, the girl I had defended from playground bullies, the girl I had covered for when she snuck out in high school. The woman I had chosen as my maid of honor because some stubborn, stupid part of me still believed sisterhood meant something. I typed one word. "Sure." Then I called Amanda. She answered on the second ring. "Please tell me you are calling to say you finally fired your sister from wedding planning." I closed my eyes. I found a hotel reservation. The silence on the other end changed. "What kind of reservation?" "Ethan and Madison. Milwaukee, 1 room." Amanda inhaled slowly. "Do not confront him. I wasn't planning to good. I am serious, Ev. Do not give them time to delete anything." That was the first moment I felt less alone. Amanda told me to meet her downtown during lunch. She brought me to a small law office on LaSalle Street, the kind with frosted glass doors and no dramatic signage. The name on the door was Daniel Pierce. Daniel was in his late 50s, calm, silver-haired, and careful in the way people become when they have spent decades watching emotional people make expensive mistakes. He listened without interrupting as I explained the hotel email, the wine in the kitchen, the odd comments, the lake house, the wedding date, and the marriage license we had applied for but not yet filed. When I finished, he folded his hands on the desk. "Do you want the emotional answer or the practical answer?" "The practical one." "Good. Emotionally, I am sorry. Practically, you need to protect yourself before you confront anyone." Amanda leaned forward beside me. "What does that mean?" Daniel looked at me. "It means no scenes, no threats, no warning. If there is an affair, evidence matters. If there are shared assets being discussed, documentation matters. And if your marriage license has not yet been filed, do not file it until you know exactly what you are walking into." The words settled over me like cold water. "Are you saying I should still have the wedding?" "I am saying you should not make a legal commitment while you are standing in the middle of unanswered questions." I looked down at my engagement ring. It suddenly felt heavier than it had the day Ethan gave it to me. Daniel slid a business card across the desk. "Olivia Chen, private investigator, former law enforcement, discreet. If you want facts, call her." Facts, not feelings, not suspicion, facts. I called Olivia from the parking garage. 20 minutes later, her voice was direct. "Send me what you have. Do not alter files. Do not access anything illegally. Do not bait them. Let them behave naturally." "How long will this take?" "Depends how careless they are." She paused. "Most people in affairs are very careless. They think secrecy is the same as intelligence." For the next 4 weeks, I became two people. One version of me went to work, led meetings, approved campaign strategy, and smiled when Jennifer asked how the wedding plans were going. The other version quietly built a case against the two people I loved most. Olivia found the first confirmation within 3 days. Ethan had not been at a client dinner in Milwaukee. He had checked into the Pfister at 7:42 p.m. Madison arrived 18 minutes later. Security footage from the lobby showed her wearing the beige coat she had told me she bought for wedding errands. Olivia sent the still image to me on a Tuesday afternoon. I opened it in my office and locked my door. For a long time, I just stared. Seeing the truth is different from suspecting it. Suspicion gives you room to bargain. A photograph does not. More evidence followed. Dinner receipts, parking logs, 2 hotel stays in Chicago, 1 weekend in Madison, Wisconsin, when Ethan claimed he was visiting a college friend. Pawn records showed repeated late-night calls. Messages recovered from screenshots Olivia obtained through a source close to Madison revealed enough to make my stomach turn. The affair had not started recently. It had started in September of 2024, 3 weeks after Ethan proposed. At our engagement party. I remembered that night, the champagne, the speeches, the way Madison had disappeared for almost an hour. The way Ethan had returned from the hallway slightly flushed, saying Todd had pulled him into a call about work. I had believed him. Of course I had. The worst discovery came on a Friday evening. Olivia asked to meet me in person. We sat in the corner of a quiet coffee shop in River North. She placed a folder on the table. There is something else. I looked at the folder. What? Your sister is in serious financial trouble. Several failed brand contracts. At least $38,000 in credit card debt. 2 collection notices. 1 threatened lawsuit from a boutique agency. I swallowed. Why does that matter? Because she has been telling people Ethan is her way out. The room seemed to tilt. Olivia opened the folder and slid a printed screenshot toward me. It was a message Madison had sent to a friend. I've always wanted to know what it feels like to win against Evelyn. I read it once, then again, then a third time. Not because I did not understand it, because I understood it too clearly. Ethan had betrayed me. But Madison had wanted to beat me. There was a difference. For years, I had believed my sister resented my stability because it made her feel judged. Now I saw the truth. She did not just want forgiveness, she wanted my life. I thought about my mother, Diane, and all the times she had brushed away my discomfort. The dinner where Madison knew Ethan's hiking story, the brunch where she mentioned the lake house. The afternoon, my mother said Madison was finally trying to be responsible and I should not discourage her. Maybe Mom had not known, not fully. But she had seen enough to look away. That hurt more than I expected. Daniel kept reminding me to stay careful. Do not confront them until you know what outcome you want. I want the truth. No, he said gently. You already have the truth. What you need now is control. So I prepared. I told the wedding coordinator that if anything unexpected happened during the reception, she was to follow my lead and keep security nearby. I hired 2 private security guards under the excuse of protecting gifts and managing vendor access. I kept the real marriage license unsigned and unsealed at Daniel's office. Ethan believed we had taken care of everything. We had not. That was the only thing that let me sleep. 2 days before the wedding, while confirming vendor payments, my phone buzzed with a message from an unfamiliar number. Hi Evelyn, this is Michael Rowan. I am not sure if you remember me from Professor Wilson's business ethics class at Michigan. I heard through Amanda that you were getting married this weekend. I just wanted to wish you peace and happiness. You always had a way of standing firm when it mattered. I remembered him vaguely, quite tanned, always carrying a camera. There was nothing romantic in the message. No pressure, no hidden agenda. Just decency arriving from a place I did not expect. I typed back, "Thank you, Michael. That means more than you know." For a minute, I let myself feel the comfort of one honest message. Then Olivia called. Her voice was tight. "I just sent you something." I opened the file. It was a screenshot from Madison's phone. A message to Ethan. After Saturday, everything changes. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at those 5 words. My wedding was in 48 hours. And they were planning something, not after the wedding, at the wedding. Chapter 4. The day they thought they won. I spent the next 2 nights moving through my life like an actress who had memorized the wrong script and decided to perform it anyway. Ethan kissed me good morning. Madison sent flower updates. My mother asked if I was sleeping enough. Everyone behaved like we were walking toward a celebration. Only I knew we were walking toward a collision. The wedding was held at a luxury beachside resort outside Lake Geneva. The kind of place that looked designed for photographs before it looked designed for people. White chairs lined the lawn in perfect rows. The water shimmered behind the altar. Floral arches framed the view in soft cream and blush. Every detail was exactly what I had once wanted. 220 guests arrived in tailored suits, pastel dresses, polished shoes, and expensive perfume. Family, friends. college friends, Ethan's coworkers, my senior leadership team from Viridian. Jennifer Walsh was there, elegant as always, sitting near two regional executives who had flown in from Minneapolis. Several of Ethan's business contacts stood near the bar, laughing too loudly and checking their phones between conversations. It was not just a wedding, it was a stage. And Madison had chosen it carefully. Amanda found me in the bridal suite just before the ceremony. She wore a deep blue bridesmaid dress and an expression she was trying very hard to soften. "Are you sure?" I looked at myself in the mirror. The dress was fitted lace with long sleeves and a low back. Elegant, traditional, almost painfully beautiful. "No." Amanda stepped closer. "Then we stop it now." I shook my head. "If I stop it now, they control the story. Ev, I am not giving them that." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Amanda reached down and squeezed my hand. "Your security team is in place." Daniel confirmed the license is still in his office. "Olivia is here as a guest under my name. The coordinator knows to follow your lead." I exhaled slowly. "Thank you." Amanda's eyes softened. "I hate that you have to be this strong." I almost laughed. So did I. My father came to walk me down the aisle. Richard Hartwell looked proud in a way I had wanted from him my entire life. His eyes filled when he saw me. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." There was a time when those words would have healed something in me. That day, they only made the ache sharper. "Thank you, Dad." The ceremony began. String music floated over the lawn. Guests turned. Cameras lifted. I stepped forward with my hand tucked into my father's arm and saw Ethan standing beneath the floral arch. He looked perfect. Dark suit, soft smile, eyes shining like he had not spent the last 9 months betraying me. For one dangerous second, my heart tried to remember loving him before it remembered what he had done. That was grief, not doubt. I reached the altar. Ethan took my hands. His palms were warm. His vows were beautiful. He spoke about partnership, loyalty, building a life rooted in truth. When he said truth, Amanda's jaw tightened from the front row. I kept my face calm. When it was my turn, I said the vows I had rewritten the night before. I promised to honor truth, even when it cost me comfort. I promised to choose dignity over illusion. And I promised never to confuse silence with weakness. Most people smiled. A few wiped tears. Ethan looked touched. He had no idea those vows were not for him. The ceremony ended with applause and music and sunlight on the lake. We walked back down the aisle as if we were husband and wife. Legally, we were nothing. The reception took place in the grand ballroom overlooking the water. Crystal chandeliers, long tables dressed in ivory linens, white roses, candles, champagne, a band playing soft jazz during dessert. Everything was beautiful. That almost made it worse. My father gave the first speech. He spoke about me as a serious child who color-coded her school notebooks and corrected adults at the dinner table. People laughed. My mother dabbed her eyes. Then Todd stood and spoke about Ethan, about college, ambition, loyalty, and how Ethan had finally found someone who could match him. I watched Ethan smile. I watched Madison watching Ethan. That was when I knew. Her eyes were not nervous. They were eager. After dessert was served, the coordinator moved toward the band to transition into dancing. Madison stood first. She picked up the microphone from the stand before anyone could stop her. A small ripple passed through the room. She was not scheduled to speak, but Madison had always known how to make people wait for her. "I know this was not on the official program," she said, smiling with just enough softness to disarm the room. "But I am the maid of honor and I am the little sister. So I think I get one moment." Laughter moved politely through the guests. My stomach went cold. Amanda looked at me. I gave the smallest shake of my head. "Not yet." Madison turned toward me. Growing up with Evelyn was not always easy. She was brilliant, disciplined, perfect, honestly, perfect grades, perfect career, perfect life. Her voice trembled in just the right places. Sometimes I felt like I was living in her shadow. My mother lowered her gaze. My father shifted in his chair. But Evelyn was also the person who protected me. She covered for me, forgave me, showed up for me when I probably did not deserve it. For one brief moment, I wondered if she would stop, if there was still some hidden part of my sister that could not go through with it. Then she looked at Ethan. And I knew there was not. That is why this is so hard, Madison said. The room quieted. She placed one hand over her stomach. But everyone here deserves to know the truth. Ethan stood halfway from his chair. Madison. She ignored him. I am pregnant with Ethan's baby. The room died, not quieted, deed. Fork stopped. Glasses froze halfway to lips. Someone near the back gasped so sharply it sounded like pain. My mother whispered my name. Ethan turned toward me with perfectly rehearsed horror. Ev, I swear to God I do not know what she is talking about. Madison's eyes flashed. Do not do that, Ethan. He looked trapped. Good. I sat still for 3 seconds. Just long enough for the silence to become unbearable. Then I stood. My chair moved softly against the floor. Every eye turned to me. I walked toward Madison. She clutched the microphone like a weapon. I held out my hand. Give it to me. Her smile flickered. Evelyn, I know this hurts. Give me the microphone. Something in my voice made her obey. I turned toward the room. My hands did not shake. I want to thank everyone for coming today. I also want to apologize that you had to witness something so ugly in a room that was meant to celebrate love. No one moved. Ethan stepped toward me. Ev, please. I lifted one hand without looking at him. He stopped. The strange thing is, Madison is right about one thing. Everyone here does deserve the truth. Madison's face changed just slightly. Fear arrived late, but it arrived. I looked at her. I know. 2 words, that was all it took. The ballroom froze harder than before. I have known for weeks. Ethan's face drained. Madison whispered something I could not hear. I continued. I know the affair began in September of last year, 3 weeks after our engagement party. I know about the Pfister Hotel in Milwaukee. I know about the Chicago stays. I know about the weekend in Madison, Wisconsin. I know about the late-night calls, the messages, the dinners, the parking records, and the lobby footage. Amanda stood and walked toward me with the manila envelope we had prepared. She placed it in my hand. I did not open it for the guests, that was not the point. But Ethan saw the top photograph. So did Madison. Ethan and Madison entering the Milwaukee hotel together. Olivia Chen stood from a table near the side of the room. My name is Olivia Chen, she said calmly. I am a licensed private investigator in the state of Illinois. The documentation Ms. Hartwell referenced is real, time-stamped, and preserved. A murmur spread through the ballroom. Ethan looked toward his colleagues. One of his business contacts slowly set down his drink. Jennifer Walsh looked at me, not with pity, but with a kind of fierce, quiet respect. Ethan moved closer, lowering his voice. You planned this? I turned to him. No, you did. His mouth opened, nothing came out. Then I reached into the envelope and pulled out the final document. One more thing. Daniel Pierce had warned me to be precise. So I was. Ethan and I applied for a marriage license. But it has not been filed. It is still in my attorney's possession. Nothing was submitted to the county clerk. There is no legal marriage. For the first time all night, Ethan looked truly afraid. Madison's lips parted. My father stood slowly. My mother covered her mouth. I looked at Ethan. You do not get my name. You do not get my assets. You do not get the lake house. And you do not get to stand here pretending I am the one who ruined this day. Ethan's face shifted from panic to anger. You tricked me. The words were so absurd I almost smiled. No, Ethan, I believed you. That was my mistake. Protecting myself was my correction. Then I turned back to Madison. She had gone pale beneath her makeup. Her hand still rested on her stomach. I looked at her carefully. Madison. She swallowed. I stepped closer. If you are going to destroy your sister in front of 220 people, then at least answer one question clearly. The room held its breath. Are you actually pregnant? Madison's mouth opened. No sound came out. The life they couldn't take from her for the first time in her life. Madison Hartwell had an audience and no performance ready. Her hand slipped from her stomach. Ethan turned toward her slowly. What does she mean, Madison? Madison looked at him, then at me, then at the room behind us. As if there might be an exit she had somehow missed. I took a test, she whispered. I kept my voice calm. Then show it. Her face crumpled just enough for the truth to show through. I threw it away. Ethan stepped back from her. You told me you were sure. I thought I was. No, I said. That is not what you told him. Olivia moved closer, not dramatically, not cruelly, just with the quiet confidence of a woman who had seen too many lies collapse under their own weight. She bought a positive pregnancy test online 3 days ago, Olivia said. The seller confirmed shipment to Madison's apartment. A sound moved through the ballroom, like wind through dry leaves. Madison's eyes filled with tears, but they were not tears of remorse. Not yet. They were the tears of someone realizing the story had turned against her. Ethan stared at her as if he had never seen her before. "You manipulated me?" Madison laughed once, sharp and broken. "You manipulated me first. You told me you loved me. You told me you were trapped. You told me after the wedding you would figure everything out." Ethan's face tightened. "I never said I was marrying you." That landed harder than any insult could have. Madison went still. I watched her realize what I had already learned. Ethan had not chosen her. He had used her, and she had tried to use him to finally feel like she had beaten me. For a second, I almost pitied her. Almost. Then I remembered every year I had protected her. Every time I had made myself smaller so she could be forgiven. Every time our parents had called my pain maturity and her selfishness fragility. My father stood first. Richard Hartwell moved beside me, his face pale, his voice low. "Ethan, leave." Ethan looked at him, stunned. "Mr. Hartwell, please. This is complicated." "No," my father said, "it is not. You betrayed my daughter with her sister in front of our family, her coworkers, and your own business partners. There is nothing complicated about that." My mother, Diane, was crying quietly, not the delicate kind of crying she had done for Madison's heartbreaks over the years. This was different. This looked like recognition arriving too late. She turned toward Madison. "How could you do this to your sister?" Madison wiped at her face. "You always choose her now because she made me look like a monster." My mother shook her head. "No, Madison, you did that." Those words changed something in the room. For 31 years, my mother had softened every consequence Madison created. That night, for the first time, she let the consequence stand. Amanda motioned to the security team. They came forward quietly, professionally, without spectacle. Madison looked at me. "Evelyn, please." I thought of the scholarship ceremony, the broken bike, the forgotten housewarming, the way she had smiled while holding a microphone in front of 220 people. "I hope you get help," I said, "but you will not get it from me tonight." Security escorted her out through the side doors. Ethan left a few minutes later, followed by 2 of his groomsmen, and a silence so thick it felt almost physical. One of his business contacts avoided his eyes. Another was already on the phone in the hallway. By Monday morning, I would hear that his company had opened an internal conduct review because several clients had witnessed the incident personally. But that night, I did not care about his job. I cared that I could finally breathe. 20 minutes later, I changed out of my wedding dress. Amanda helped unzip the back while I stood in the bridal suite staring at myself in the mirror. My face looked calm, but my eyes looked older. "You do not have to go back out there," she said. "I know. Then why are you?" I looked at the pale blue evening dress hanging beside the mirror, the one I had packed for the honeymoon departure. "Because I paid for the room, I paid for the flowers, I paid for the band, and I am done letting them decide what this day means." When I walked back into the ballroom, people stood. Not everyone, but enough. The applause started softly, then grew. I did not cry until Melissa Grant reached me and wrapped both arms around my shoulders. "I am coming with you wherever you go next," she said. A laugh broke out of me, messy and wet. "Amalfi Coast?" She pulled back and stared. "You are serious? I have 2 tickets and no husband." "Then I guess we are drinking limoncello by next week." That was the first real smile I had felt in days. The reception became something I never could have planned. Not a wedding, not a disaster, a strange, fragile celebration of survival. People danced. Some hugged me. Some admitted they had seen signs. Others simply stayed near me so I would not feel alone. My parents came to me near the end of the night. My father looked smaller than he had that morning. "We failed you," he said. I did not answer right away. He continued. "We always thought you were strong enough to be fine. We did not realize that was another way of leaving you alone." My mother reached for my hand, then stopped, waiting for permission. I saw things, she whispered. Little things. Madison knowing too much. Ethan acting strange. I told myself I was imagining it because facing it would mean admitting how much we had allowed. The apology did not erase, but it named them. And sometimes being named is the first form of repair. I left the resort after midnight with Amanda, Melissa, and Cooper, who had spent the evening at a pet-friendly cottage on the property, completely unaware that his family had been rearranged. 5 days later, Melissa and I flew to the Amalfi Coast. I did not pretend the trip healed me. It did not. I cried on the balcony of our hotel in Positano while tourists laughed somewhere below us. I journaled until my hand cramped. I stared at the sea and wondered how love could feel so real and still be built on lies. But slowly, distance gave me room. When I returned to Chicago, Daniel confirmed what I already knew. Because the marriage license had never been filed, there was no legal marriage to dissolve, no divorce, no shared claim to the lake house, no entanglement with Ethan Mercer beyond the wreckage he had created. I canceled the purchase of the lakefront home. I sold the condo Ethan and I had shared. I started therapy. The video went viral because someone at the reception had recorded everything. I did not post it. I did not need to. The internet did what the internet does. Within days, strangers were sending messages from all over the country. Women told me about sisters, husbands, best friends, mothers, people who smiled in family photos while holding knives behind their backs. So I started writing, a private blog at first, then a public one. I called it The Life After the Lie. Jennifer Walsh called me into her office 3 months later. I need someone to lead the Midwest Authenticity campaign, she said. Not because of what happened to you, because of how you handled it. That campaign changed my career. 1 year later, I became regional CMO. Ethan's downfall was quieter than Madison's performance, but it was real. He lost the promotion he had been expecting. Several clients requested reassignment. His circle shrank. People still invited him places, but not important places. Madison lost 2 brand partnerships within a month. Her followers turned on her when the story spread. She tried to spin it as a mental health crisis, then as a love story, then as a misunderstanding. None of it held. She and Ethan lasted less than 4 months. That was the strangest karma of all. I did not have to destroy them. They simply had to live with each other without the thrill of betraying me. 2 years later, I stood on a stage at the Women in Business Awards in Chicago, accepting recognition for the campaign that had grown from the worst night of my life. Michael Rowan was in the audience. He had re-entered my life slowly. Coffee after a photography exhibit. A walk with Cooper by the lake. Dinner with no pressure. Conversations with no hidden corners. He never asked me to trust him blindly. He gave me reasons to trust him gradually. When he proposed, it was in my living room, not in front of a crowd. Cooper was asleep by the window. Rain tapped softly against the glass. I am not asking you to forget what happened, he said. I am asking if we can build something honest from here. This time, there was no performance, no audience, no sister watching from the shadows, just peace. I said yes. Looking back, people sometimes assume my wedding day was the day my life fell apart. They are wrong. It was the day I stopped begging people to choose me after they had already shown me who they were. It was the day I stopped mistaking silence for weakness. It was the day I finally chose myself. And if you have ever been betrayed by someone you loved, someone you protected, someone you thought would never hurt you, I hope you remember this. Their betrayal is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is the first honest page. If this story meant something to you, share where you are watching from and tell me what you would have done in my place. Stay with us for more stories about betrayal, strength, and the quiet kind of justice that changes everything.